listener, and welcome to the Crypto Corner episode on the Metacast, brought to you by Naavik. I'm your host today, Nico Vereecke, or Nico for short, and I'm joined on this special episode by Michael Sanders from Horizon Blockchain Games. Michael is the storyteller, the chief storyteller at Horizon. Welcome, Michael.
Thanks, Nico. Thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
How is it to be the chief storyteller in a time like this where it feels like over half of the gaming industry is absolutely hating on everything that is remotely touching blockchain technology and crypto?
Yeah, that definitely poses a challenge. Fortunately for us, our community really understands what we're doing, and we're focused very much on building a game-first experience with our game. And then, we also have the infrastructure and wallet to help other developers and creators. So whenever someone comes in and actually experiences what we're doing, while they might have a little bit of skepticism at the outset, once they experience our game Skyweaver and see oh, these folks are actually building a game-first experience, then it really starts to make sense with them. And then they see that the NFT, the blockchain component is more layered onto the experience, providing them additional advantages such as ownership and tradability. And then things really start clicking. I've seen professional Hearthstone and Magic the Gathering players play Skyweaver without even really knowing at first that there is a blockchain component. And through free play, they end up winning these NFTs, and they're like, oh, holy shit, crypto Web3 makes sense to me for the very first time. So there is a lot of noise, and a lot of people are concerned for various reasons. And I think a lot of the concerns are valid. And a lot of times it's people just haven't had a good experience with a Web3 game yet. And so we're here to change that. And I know a lot of other games are coming out as well to do the same.
Cool. And could you tell us a bit more about what Horizon is building, what you're doing there?
Yeah, so we founded Horizon Blockchain Games in January 2018. And our vision is for building this new dimension where internet economies are fun, accessible, and for the benefit of all participants. And our mission to achieve this is to drive Web3 adoption by making blockchain easy, fun, and powerful for both users and developers. So we have a couple different products to drive this adoption. And the first is Skyweaver, which is a free-to-play trading card game where players can win, own, trade, sell, gift their NFT cards. And it's a very game-first experience, sort of in the genre of Hearthstone or Magic the Gathering. And happy to dive into all the details about everything Skyweaver related. And then we also have Sequence. And Sequence consists of a couple different components. So the first is that it's the smartest wallet for Web3. It makes Web3 easy, fun, and secure for everyone. So you can think of it as your wallet, your backpack, your gateway, and your passport to this next generation of the internet that has crypto, NFTs, and everything else related to Web3. And so that's really allowing users access, and then developers can also integrate the Sequence wallet into their product or game to make it super easy to onboard people to their Web3 application or game. And then Sequence is also a developer platform. So it's a portfolio of products to make building these Web3 applications and games easy, whether they're doing it on Ethereum or a layer 2 or a sidechain that's part of the EVM ecosystem. And just in case anyone doesn't know, EVM means the Ethereum virtual machine. So a network of chains.
Okay. Let's dive into Sequence first, and then we can go into Skyweaver. I have a lot of questions there. What makes Sequence unique from the perspective of a user? Why would someone choose to use Sequence over MetaMask or maybe over a Coinbase wallet?
Yeah, so really it's the harmonization of seamless UX. So an experience that's essentially as easy as any Web 2 experience, coupled with smart contract architecture, which gives the user a ton of different capabilities and extensibility in the Web3 ecosystem. So, to give you an example, a user in 2 clicks through social or email login can create this secure, non-custodial, multi-chain Web3 wallet. They don't need to think about seed phrases or, these complex structures that creates a lot of friction for the person who, might just be looking to play a game. So we really solve the onboarding experience in that way. And, typically up until now, you've kind of only had seamless wallet experiences that are more of like a custodial solution. So the user
Hmm.
doesn't actually have full custody and control of their funds. Whereas with Sequence, it's non-custodial. The user's in total control of their assets. Um, and there are a few other things. So first, like there's first class NFT support. So, ERC 721s, 1155s, any game collectible, it's going to display in your wallet with the art or the video and all the metadata, and it's just going to appear automatically. And you can even view your NFTs and collectibles in a gallery view. So not only is it a place to store your assets, it's a place where you can actually like engage with them and experience them. So that's really important for gamers. Additionally, like we've simplified a lot of the payment systems. So, transactions, for example, they render in a user-friendly format. So you can just see what you're doing and say like, oh yeah, that's what I want to do. I want to send this NFT over to my friend. We've also enabled so you can pay gas fees in any ERC20 token that you're holding. So, like if you're a brand new user, you might not have ETH to interact on the Ethereum main network. You might not have Matic to interact on Polygon. So we let you pay those gas fees with any ERC20. We also allow the developer of a game to actually subsidize those gas fees to make it extra friendly so that a user wouldn't need any token at all. There's other things like you can bundle transactions. So you can send tokens such as ERC20s like USDC and Ether and Matic, in addition to collectibles like ERC 1155s and Skyweaver cards and other artwork, in addition to ERC 721s and NFTs, all in a single transaction. So this saves users time. They're not waiting for multiple confirmations. It saves them money as well because they're only paying one gas fee. And there are a number of other things. Like we've made it really accessible. It's browser-based. You can also access it. We're releasing a mobile app soon. There's a Chrome extension, so it's quite universal in that sense. And it's incredibly secure because we have multi-key architecture. And this is one of the great benefits of smart contract architecture is that without needing to worry so much about like your seed phrase is that single private key, which if someone compromises it, they get full access to your account, right? And they can drain your funds. Whereas with Sequence, it's actually a multi-signature design. So by default, you need 2 out of 3 keys to sign into your wallet. And you can rotate keys out. Let's say you had like your cell phone was logged in to your Sequence wallet and you lost it in an Uber. Well, you could actually remove that key, remove your device from the wallet, and then regenerate a new one with your remaining keys. So what this does is it really gives the user enhanced security and peace of mind. And then one other thing is that Sequence actually brings all of the different EVM chains together. So like it's already supporting Ethereum and Polygon. We're adding support for Optimism, Binance Smart Chain, Arbitrum, Avalanche, Phantom. And so the user can interact with all of these different networks, all of the applications on these networks, and all of the assets on these networks from the same simple, sleek UI. And they can even like bridge assets between different networks in wallet. And so just really making the user experience nice and seamless to welcome people to Web3 instead of making it so complex.
I really like that. How does the safety work? So, I mean, if you say a 3-key model is what you said, right? And how does it, like, where are these 3 keys? So let's say that I use my Google login to create a Sequence wallet in my browser. Where do the different keys live?
Yeah, so by default, there are 3 keys, and there is one key that is associated with, for example, your Google login. Mm-hmm. There's another key that's associated with the device you're using. And then there's a third key, which is called the guard key, which is encrypted and stored on a server. And so this server, Horizen has access to, but of course we don't have access to the key in and of itself because it's encrypted. And furthermore, we can't do anything with only one key because you actually need a quorum of keys in order to access your wallet. So this really helps us. It enables us to help users recover their account if necessary. And as we go along, we're actually planning to enable customization. So Nico, if you wanted to, let's say you're like, I don't want that guard key there, like because Horizen, it's on their server or whatever. You could actually customize it. So like, let's say you wanted to have 7 keys and one's associated with your tablet or your friend's computer. And, you have 7 keys and you need 5 of them to sign into your Sequence wallet. That component's not live yet, but we will enable that customization for even enhanced security, which, will likely be reserved for those who are more advanced in the Web3 space.
That's really fascinating. One of the things when I hang around in Web3, on many of the decentralized apps that I use, I click on Connect Wallet and it gives me MetaMask and maybe sometimes Wallet Connect. Will that then work with Sequence as well? Or how does that work?
Yeah, so already you can connect with Wallet Connect, and then you can connect your Sequence wallet that way. And we're also in the process of working on a bunch of integrations with top dApps across Ethereum and Polygon. A lot of games, a lot of NFT marketplaces, even decentralized exchanges and DeFi protocols. And so you'll start seeing that Sequence option in a lot more dApps as time goes on.
Mm-hmm. How important, because in the beginning you talked about onboarding more people onto the blockchain and into the world of Web3. How important do you think is a user-friendly solution or wallet solution for that?
I think it's extremely important. If you look at let's say some of the top metaverse is in Web3, they'll see let's just say Snoop Dogg or somebody tweets about some Web3 metaverse, and then all these people flood to that application. They're seeing such a significant drop off at the wallet creation phase because it's just it's so much friction, and it's foreign to people who are coming from Web 2, and it's even frustrating for people in the Web3 space. Like, I give tremendous kudos to the wallets that have existed thus far because they've helped evolve this ecosystem, right? But I think it's really time that we welcome in hundreds of millions and eventually billions of people to Web3. So we really need this seamless experience so that rather than seeing an 80 to 90% drop off of high intent people, we can actually onboard virtually every one of them through a very seamless login.
Mm-hmm. You don't want to know how many pieces of paper I have in a safe somewhere with 12 to 24 random English words written on them. So I totally get that. What do you think is the most important next step in, mainstream blockchain adoption?
Yeah. So, well, first off, I believe that we've solved the onboarding experience problem, which is a big
Mm-hmm.
crux for both, not just the users, but of course the developers and the game creators building these products, because they need to be able to onboard these folks seamlessly. And I think the other key piece is content that appeals to a more general, more mainstream audience. I think most of what we've seen is super interesting for a lot of, crypto natives and people who've been in the space for a long time and people who get drawn in by NFTs. But, such game first experiences like Skyweaver, for example, and other games that are they're designed not to, the reason they exist isn't just because there's crypto in it. It's actually in and of itself a fun experience that could be enjoyable even if there were no Web3 component to it. But there actually happens to be there's these additional superpowers for end users. So I really think it's creating content that's just enjoyable and fun and beneficial for a more mainstream audience.
Mm-hmm. And then in 5 years, how many people do you see onboarded onto the blockchain space?
In 5 years, I would say somewhere between 500 million and 1.5 billion. That's my guess.
It's relatively conservative for people within the blockchain space, but I think it's that's fair.
Well, I think in 10 years it's going to be 4 billion-ish, I just think, it's going to hit that point. I'm not exactly sure when the acceleration is going to, I think it's going to come soon, but I'll throw out a little more conservative estimate, I guess, than other folks.
And honestly, I've used your wallets. I've played a bit of Skyweaver that we can dive in next, and I'm very impressed with the ease of use. I've just described how many times I have to oh crap, I have to set up another wallet because I'm using a different chain, and having to write down these things. That said, curious to see how the recovery goes, right? If I ever did, I don't know, lose access to my Google account or whatever, I'm curious to see how that goes. But I really like the idea, and I believe that this could be a game changer. It's good. All right, let's dive into Skyweaver. What is Skyweaver? How would you how do you describe it to people?
Yeah, so it's a free to play trading card game. And yeah, as I mentioned, it has a very game first approach. So
Mhm.
we've been building it for 4 years and rigorously play testing it for three or more with a lot of like, professional Magic players, a lot of casual trading card game players as well, world champions of Hearthstone and Pokemon. So we've very much focused on the gameplay. And yeah, like we talk about play to own. We don't use the term play to earn because we're not trying to set the expectation you come to Skyweaver to make money. Skilled players can earn a lot of like awesome rewards that they can own and trade, but the experience first and foremost is about the game. And so it's, there's 500 unique cards in Skyweaver. Um, it's a turn-based strategy game. I know your audience is like primarily gamers, so they know like what a trading card game is. And it has a lot of incredible heroes, like a very immersive experience in terms of we're evolving the lore. There's a lot of like dynamic strategies you can use with different prisms and different heroes. Something that's quite unique amongst trading card games is that units have attached spells, so they're like these disposable attacks that you can initiate during your turn, and it creates for like a lot of sort of more game-changing moments and dynamism, making the experience really exciting. It's player versus player, of course, and yeah, there's like an amazing deck builder built in game, and then there's of course this player-owned market that makes it super seamless and easy for users to trade cards with one another in this decentralized way. So it's this trading card game with actual trading, kind of bringing the traditional tabletop games like Magic the Gathering online and actually bringing that trading component to the internet.
Yeah. A few weeks ago, I had the game lead from Gods Unchained on, where I mean, putting trading card games are probably the number one genre when you think about where it just makes sense to put it on the blockchain, where ownership is so essential and so natural to players. Did you design Skyweaver keeping in mind that it would be a blockchain game? Was it always blockchain like intended to be a blockchain game?
Yeah. Like we knew since day one of our company that we really wanted to enable folks to own and be able to trade their cards. So we knew it was a blockchain game from the very beginning. And right from the outset too, we were building Skyweaver at the same time we were building Sequence because we knew we needed to build the infrastructure and wallet to make the game accessible. So our friends could play it, right? And so anyone could
Hmm.
play it.
Interesting. Okay. So would you say that Skyweaver was what you like was the end goal and Sequence was a necessary part to get there?
Honestly, man, they're equally important.
Okay.
And I think as a company, like they work so synergistically with one another. For
Hmm.
example, with Sequence, we wouldn't have known what to build for Sequence in terms of the wallet, in terms of the infrastructure, if we didn't have Skyweaver to work on. But at the same time, like, what good is a wallet? What good is infrastructure if you don't have incredible content for people to enjoy, right? Um,
100%.
and I believe as a company, Skyweaver will be the only game we make, but we believe this can be a multi-decade franchise that could become the biggest trading card game of all time, and that's our ambition. So we want to service this game for a long term. Yeah.
That's really exciting. I was a very big Hearthstone nerd for about 2 years of my life, where I played that way too much. I'm certainly looking forward to. I don't play anymore. I thought it, and also like the money I've put in there. I guess like this is a very easy answer why blockchain just makes sense. I've a few $100 at least. I've put into that game, and now I have a lot of beautiful cards in there that I don't look at, can't access, can't sell, can't do anything with. Um, yeah, I guess that's what you're solving. Um, Curious, knowing that you were building a blockchain game from the start, did this influence some design decisions on the game side and or on the economy side for the game?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you know, I'd say one of the things we faced over the years was to, for example, resist the temptation of making it making the experience too blockchain centric for the purpose of, let's say, doing some kind of NFT drop or what have you, or token sale to, raise a bunch of money off the bat, and potentially lock us into an economy or game design that doesn't actually serve the community and the longevity of the game. So we certainly, we've taken this very game first approach, and we've been very deliberate with how we think about the economy. So, we wanted Skyweaver to be accessible. So free to play is an important component for us. It's also a browser-based game, so you can play it on most devices, anything that's really internet connected. And so that accessibility is really important. And then the way the entire economy works, right, is we have over 500 unique cards in the game, each with different artwork, mechanics, abilities. And each of these cards exists as 3 different grade types. So the first is that a card will exist as a base version. And the base versions are non-tradable. They're non-blockchain items, but you can unlock all of them through free play, which, this eliminates any pay-to-win dynamics because everyone can unlock these cards and get the total access to the strategy of the game. And then we have what are called silver cards. So we have these weekly leaderboards, and the top ranking players at the end of each week actually mint silver NFT versions of the cards into existence. And the silver version, they're cosmetically enhanced. So they don't provide you a gameplay advantage, but they give you ownership, cosmetic status in game, the ability to trade those. And then we have another game mode, a highly competitive game mode called Conquest, where you pay to enter with either $1.50 or 1 silver card. And it's a single elimination tournament style mode. So if you lose your first match, you're out and you lose your stake. But if you win a match, you win 1 silver NFT. Win 2 matches, you win 2 silver NFTs. Win all 3 matches in a Conquest, and you win 1 rare limited supply gold NFT and a silver NFT. And again, with the golds, no gameplay advantage, but status, cosmetic, ownership, tradability. So this took us a lot of consideration to figure out how do we create an economy that's sustainable, that benefits players, that rewards players, and doesn't risk something like hyperinflation. Because if it's too easy to mint cards, then no one's really going to care about owning them because there's just billions and billions and billions, and then, who cares, right? But some people will, sentimentality and status, but in terms of any tradability and selling it for something. So being on the blockchain, it's informed a ton of our design thinking.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. So I've been playing your game for a bit. I got a bunch of cards. Those are base cards, and those are not NFTs, correct?
If they have the purple border, yes.
Okay.
Now, I don't know if you've ranked highly on the weekly leaderboard.
I haven't.
Okay, so yeah, then they're base cards. You sound like me. I have not won any silvers or golds yet because I admittedly am not the best TCG player, and there are people way better than I am.
There you go. Yeah, that's really interesting. Yeah, why are you and so? How do you think around the price? Because I've checked out your marketplace, and I think the cheapest card for sale was $1.18 or something, and the most expensive was $300, I believe. Are you concerned with the price at all, or is that because it is just an additional element on top of the game, and it doesn't influence the game for people because they can get the cards for free anyway? Are you thinking around that?
Yeah, I mean the price will attract different sorts of users into the game, right? And we've anticipated from the beginning that silver cards will trend around $1.50. That's what we've imagined, because Conquest game mode costs $1.50 to enter, and you can pay Conquest with a silver card. This doesn't take into consideration all factors, right? Because some people, people have sentimental reasons as to why they love a card so much. So then that can influence the value of it as well. And cards, there's really interesting incentives for players each and every week in that, of the 500 cards available in Skyweaver, only 8 of them can be minted each week via Conquest. And there can be an arbitrary number of copies of those 8 cards, but so in week 1, you can mint cards 1 through 8. And then in week 2, we shift to cards 9 through 16, which means cards 1 through 8 will never be minted again. and so their supply is fixed. So, those sorts of things, that scarcity will likely have an impact on the price that they're trading in the market. And yeah, things have been going well so far. And the other thing too is, right, like let's say a gold card becomes really expensive. Well, you don't need it to play the game, right? Just like you said, like you can unlock the base card. If you really want to accelerate unlocking cards in your gameplay, then you could buy that silver card on the market, and it's probably not going to be too expensive. I understand people in different regions, expense is a relative term, but it could be $1.50 in that range. So we think with the way we've designed it, we're catering to sort of the different demographics, in that you can get the base cards to play the game. If you want that ownership, that rarity, you can buy it or win it if you're super competitive. Yeah, so that's how we're thinking about things.
Hmm. How are you thinking around expanding the game and keeping things balanced?
Yeah, so we do patch updates every 2 weeks, and like minor fixes more often, but pretty much every day. But the game balancing of cards, we release a patch every 2 weeks, and most patches include some balancing, and especially over the last like 3+ years of playtesting, just a ton of balancing, right? Because you just learn so much, both through player feedback in the community, in addition to the data that we're monitoring. So the way it works is that our Skyweaver cards are eternal, which means they're never rotated nor banned. So you'll always be able to play with your Skyweaver cards. Now, this means that it is essential to, nerf or buff those cards, because, you don't want a card getting out of control, like overpowered, and then it being kind of a poor experience for people competing against you. So there is that. So we're constantly balancing, and we're very transparent about that. And it's for the long-term health of the game. So our players are, very receptive to that, and folks understand. And in terms of expansion, like we have a lot of cool plans coming up. So like we're looking at in-game guilds. We'll have observer mode and replay modes, which really helps with like community engagement and streaming and things of that nature, and tournaments. We've already had 11 community-run tournaments, and most of those have third-party cash sponsors, and those are all happening independently of us. And so there's going to be a lot more tournaments coming, especially because we've just entered into open beta as of February 8th. So all the tournaments previously actually occurred in our code-gated private beta. So now that we're open, like we're anticipating a lot more. We're going to have new cards, expansion sets. We're going to be enabling the customization of private matches. We'll be actually adding in different cosmetics so that users can personalize their player experiences. We have these they're called these lethal puzzle games coming out. So there's a number of different things that we're adding in this year, actually, to expand the Skyweaver ecosystem and experience.
That's really cool. You mentioned community a few times, and I think everyone realizes that community is key within a blockchain gaming world. How did you approach community, and what are some lessons that you've learned?
Yeah, so community I think most people in Web3 understand this, that community is of the utmost importance, and we've held that philosophy since day one. And, we started very modestly 4 years ago. From the beginning, we've set out to be very welcoming and inclusive. And so we've really nurtured that energy since the beginning. And you can see in our Discord, which now has about 99,000 users, which is actually bigger than like Hearthstone and Magic the Gathering Arena, which of course are the two biggest Web2 trading card games. And we just entered into open beta. If you go there, like the conversation is actually overall pretty wonderful. Very little toxicity, and we're very deliberate about curbing any toxicity and having conversations with folks. So I think building a super inclusive space where it's not, we're reactive. So we let kind of the community run with some things, and we have some principles about how to treat one another. And we really want the community to support one another, so that they're not always just like asking us questions and then we're always the ones who have to respond. So it's been really about like empowering people within the community. We also have a creators program, so that this really, like if someone's a streamer or a content creator of any sort, right? We're going to reward them and foster them and nurture them so that they can grow their audience, which in turn grows our audience. But it's this really like symbiotic relationship. And yeah, there's just like a lot of honesty, and we're very transparent with our community, and yeah, just welcoming, like, and it's welcoming in a community sense, and then also welcoming in a technological sense with respect to how we've built everything. We're not asking you to learn all about blockchain and wallets to start playing. No, it's like, just come play the game. Like, that's what it's about. We want to provide a really fun experience for you.
Mm-hmm. You have NFTs? Do you have a Skyweaver token?
We do not. We've, of course, like, each and every card is a token, and they're ERC 1155s. And that's actually we co-authored that token standard because we needed it to enable a trading card game like Skyweaver. And now that standard's seeing a lot of adoption throughout the space. So technically right now there's 1,020 different tokens because there's silver and gold. But then in terms of like a Skyweaver token, like an ERC 20, we've done a lot of thinking about it over the years, and we have some cool plans and ideas coming up. So yeah, we do think there will be a token at some point. I just can't yet say exactly when it'll be.
Okay, exciting. You described different standards for NFTs. Could you elaborate a little bit what makes the 1155 standard stand out from the 721 and what the key differences are?
Yeah, totally. So the 721's awesome in the sense that every ERC 721 is an NFT. It's a non-fungible token by like the true definition. It's unique. It's one of one. This works really well for things like artwork, if you only want a one of one artwork. In terms of game items, it's not always as applicable and as efficient because, for example, in Skyweaver, or really any trading card game, like, let's say we're talking about the Mother Ethera card in Skyweaver. We don't want each and every one to be unique because, like, my Mother Ethera is the same as your Mother Ethera. Like, it has the same abilities, and on the marketplace, it should have the same value, or like very close to it. So with ERC 1155, you can have an arbitrary number of copies of a card, all with the same properties, all part of the same smart contract. And then, so there can be an arbitrary number of Mother Etheras, and then we have the fungi card over here, and there can be a different number of those. And each card can have its own arbitrary number of copies. Now, this is super important for markets and liquidity and like efficiency of trading. So in addition to co-authoring the 1155 standard, we created something called the Nifty Swap protocol. And for those who are familiar, you can think of Nifty Swap like Uniswap for ERC 1155s. So like Uniswap for game items and collectibles on the blockchain. And what this means is that it's an automated market maker, which is a decentralized marketplace where there are no bid or sell orders. Instead, prices are algorithmically calculated based on the liquidity supplied to the market. So what this does is it makes it super easy for players. Like in Skyweaver, for example, you can see on the market, like, if I sell my fungi card, if I sell it now, I'm gonna get $1.60 for it. You can also see the buy price, and so it really just makes this trading experience nice and seamless and easy to understand. And then, that underlying technology I'm talking about, the Nifty Swap protocol, there's a lot we could talk about there too, if you're interested.
Yeah. No, I'm definitely interested. It's probably slightly outside of the scope of what we're going to be discussing today, but that's, I think, something I'd like to touch upon maybe in a future episode. It's interesting because right now it feels like, everyone talks about the floor of NFT collections, and with automated market maker, like, the floor is just a number, and it doesn't mean that you can at this point sell your NFT for that price. And I think having these Uniswap like pools for NFTs also makes a lot of sense. It's really interesting.
Yeah, I mean, and it's really important for games in general, right? Like if they want liquidity on their markets so that their users can actually buy and sell like pretty much instantaneously. So it actually makes the gaming experience a lot better.
And so that technology, is that now fully open source? That can other games use that as well?
Yeah, it's open source, and we're actually going to release a front end standalone version of it as well called Nifty Swap, where it's a generalized marketplace for ERC 1155. So just like instantly being able to buy and sell your game items and collectibles. And then, so Nifty Swap as a front end will be like a generalized marketplace. And then the Skyweaver market, it's a front end on top of the Nifty Swap protocol, but it specifically focuses on Skyweaver items, Skyweaver cards. It doesn't display anything else that are in the liquidity pools on the protocol. So that means that, someone else, they can go build their own front end, and they could do it to display like Nico, you create a game called Nico's Game, and then like you could just display all of the cards or the game items from your game in your front end version of Nifty Swap. And in fact, like there are even others who have already built marketplaces for Skyweaver that connect to the Nifty Swap protocol so it really makes the ecosystem truly decentralized because other folks can extend upon it.
So essentially you're competing against other people who could potentially build a better marketplace than you.
They could. Yeah. I'd say, and if they do, that like all the power to them, and kudos to them for making it better than we could. For now, like the vast majority of liquidity flows through the Skyweaver market because it's like in game, that's where the most players are. It's like nice and seamless, etc. But yeah.
Of course. Yeah. I can hear other game industry people in my head right now asking you, okay, how do you make money? Because that's still important when you're building a game and a business. Could you tell us more about that?
Yeah, for sure, man. So in Skyweaver, we earn revenue in a few different ways. The first is that conquest game mode I mentioned to you. Anytime someone's buying in with $1.50, we earn that revenue. Also, anytime that there's a trade on the Skyweaver market, buy or sell, we take a 6% fee. Furthermore, if someone goes and sells one of their cards on a third-party marketplace, let's say OpenSea, we earn a 5% royalty for that. So we are earning, kind of independently of where the items are traded. We're also planning to sell other cosmetics, so not cards per se, but like in the game there are heroes. You've seen them, Nico. Like we might have hero skins where you could buy those as cosmetics at varying price ranges, or like island skins, or kind of cosmetics like that a lot of Web 2 traditional games would have as well. So we can sell all those from a primary market and enable users to trade them too. And then so that's on the Skyweaver side, how we earn revenue. And then on the Sequence side of the wallet, we monetize the end user by providing them things like token swaps. So if they're swapping tokens, we take a super small fee for providing that convenience and making it super friendly. And the swap fee market, based on volume, is quite profitable and revenue generating. So it's and there's a number of other monetization streams we can enable with Sequence, but those are that's kind of the gist of what we have at the moment.
I've talked about your game with my colleagues at Naavik, and they mentioned one, that the game is insanely good. It's going to surprise and drive a lot of people into Web3, very polished. And they were surprised at the slow out roll. We've seen quite a lot of blockchain games kind of build in public. You've been slower with that. Could you elaborate a bit on that strategy?
Yeah. We've been very deliberate and focused on making sure that when someone comes to experience the game, they're not met with a ton of friction and a ton of uncertainty around what Web3, what blockchain is. So we've been building the game and ensuring that it's like a really fun experience. And that's been like through all this rigorous play testing, right? So that in and of itself is like one journey, just building a game on its own. And at the same time, like we're a startup, we were only 5 people at the beginning. We're now 45, but we're also building the infrastructure to make all of this possible. So like creating that seamlessness, like building a transaction relay, or building a blockchain index, or building this wallet, make sure everything connects together and that it's secure. Because like the last thing we want to do is have screw someone over, right? So doing all these things in tandem, just like it takes time to make all of these things possible. And in terms of like building in public, I mean, with Skyweaver, we did open up the alpha as of December 2018 with a very small group at the time, like 20 people outside of our company. And then since that time, we've just been welcoming more and more players into our code gated environment. So, we had like over 100,000 users throughout the journey of the private beta experience. So it wasn't totally in private. You could get a private like a code access. It wasn't that difficult. But it's just really been about like being super intentional with our design and making sure we deliver something that will break through, and like, your comment of like it being polished, it being enjoyable, and it being something that can break through and attract people to Web3 and be this fun gaming experience. That's what our ambition was. So yeah, hearing you say that, it makes me believe that we took the right approach with the way we're rolling it out.
I respect it. I also saw that your games are available on the App Store and on Android. Could you tell a bit about that experience? Like how easy was it to get it on there? The fact that it's, blockchain, has blockchain assets in it?
Yeah. So it's, there were some learnings throughout the process, but now we're in the stores. I'm pretty sure that on iOS you can't interact with the market directly. So like if you're playing on your phone, so you would have to like play it like in browser.
Okay.
And then in terms of like Google Play, like you can use an in-app purchase to buy a conquest ticket, for example. And I forgive me for not knowing this because I don't have an Android phone, but I'm pretty sure you can interact with the market from your Android, and then of course you can if you're on your browser. So like we're on both those stores, and I think those experiences will get, especially on iOS. I imagine it'll open up and like get better and better. And I think it'll just take a little bit of time. For us, like probably not that surprising to you. Most of our players are on the highest percentage is on Android, and then like desktop, and then iOS.
Okay. Does so for the $1.5 buy-in for the Conquest mode, does Android charge a fee on that?
Yeah, there is a fee that Google Play collects.
Okay, interesting. Okay. All right. I also saw that you're building on Polygon. Could you explain a bit what you were looking for on the blockchain side? I guess obviously it would have to be within the EVM, the Ethereum virtual machine. Why did you choose Polygon?
Yeah, so it was a number of years ago where we realized like, Ethereum layer 1 wasn't going to be feasible for trading a $1.50 card, right? Like you're not going to pay a $20+ gas fee to trade that. And so we've actually been very close with the Polygon team since like super early days. To my knowledge, I know we were the first game on Polygon, one of the very first dApps. I don't know which number, but we just spent a lot of time researching like different solutions and found that one, like the philosophy, the ethos behind Polygon is incredibly strong to contribute and expand upon the Ethereum ecosystem. There is, of course, the scalability. So, we can make those transactions we're talking about, do it in a cheap way. Like in Skyweaver for the time being, like users don't even actually pay the gas fee because it's so small, and we subsidize that. And with Sequence, we allow other game developers, they could do the same. So there's that scalability, the security, and their philosophy for becoming even increasingly decentralized and increasingly secure. So overall, the network just really fulfilled on everything we needed as a trading card game. And just like you said, being part of the EVM ecosystem, we knew the infrastructure we were building would be compatible with everything EVM compatible. So that, that played a role. But yeah, Polygon's been working extremely well so far, and I think it's gonna keep getting better.
That's awesome. I've recently been hearing a lot of more good things about Polygon. So yeah, definitely some good things happening there. I have some more general questions that I'd like to have your thoughts on. My first question is, I've written down a few of the key benefits of building on blockchain games. So there's the real ownership of blockchain assets that players have. Then there's the community/player ownership of the company through governance tokens. There's the concept of interoperability, the concept of composability, and also the fact that you have an instant open economy and liquidity and potential derivatives. My first question was going to be, what excites you most of these? I'm assuming that the answer to that is real ownership, because that feels like what you've built Skyweaver around. what excites you after that? What of these, what do you think the blockchain can bring on top of the real ownership of assets?
Yeah, it's a great question, man, because when I think of all those things, I'm like, well, like the synergy of all those things working together is really what excites me the most, because like with that ownership, you enable a deeper sense of evangelism and excitement from folks, and likely better network effects, because I think people understand it now, but when we were first kind of sharing this idea in 2018, not everyone saw that like this could actually create more revenue for both like the user and the creator, because you have more people who are willing to purchase in-game items because they're tradable. And you talked about your experience with other games where those assets, those items are locked away and you don't look at them anymore, and you can't extract any value from it. So now that you can, like, you're probably more inclined to buy those things, and then that can boost revenue for the company, the user benefits, and then it creates these positive network effects. Likely people are going to share it more with their friends, like, hey, play this game where you can actually own these things. So that's really cool. And then, you mentioned the liquidity. Of course, that's kind of essential if you actually do want to be able to trade those goods, right? Like you do need these open markets in order to enable that. Otherwise, it's kind of like that floor price issue you talked about where, yeah, sure, that's the floor price, but like doesn't mean someone's going to buy it from me. So if you have these liquid, open, decentralized markets where sort of anyone who has these cards and coins or what have you can actually provide liquidity to it and make the market more efficient, then that's super powerful. And then there's all this extensibility, right? Where people can do things independently of the game creator themselves. So like in Skyweaver, like just as an example, there's a group called Meta that is playing Skyweaver, and it's like their focus seems to be around having really kind of skilled players part of their guild. A lot of like Hearthstone, Magic the Gathering pros who are now like, in the Web3 TCG space and super excited by Skyweaver. And so part of their guild, like they'll buy a bunch of conquest tickets and then they'll distribute them to their guild participants. And then when their guild participants win, like everyone shares in the rewards, right? Like the guild comes to own them, and then different people have different stakes or what have you, however they plan to distribute those things. And then they might also buy like a full card collection so that particular guild members can play Constructed. And just so everyone knows, there's two game modes in Skyweaver. There's Discovery, where you play with a random deck that's just given to you. And then there's Constructed, where you build your own deck based on cards that you own. So, the Meta Guild will sometimes buy those decks for their players. And then again, like the rewards are shared amongst guild members. And then there's other ideas that we've been playing around with, like having in-game guilds where folks could potentially, let's say like they burn multiple copies of the fungi card. And then that means that their mascot for their guild is now the fungi. And then anyone who wants to join, they have to, let's say they have to burn one copy of that card, and then they get to become part of that guild. And then you can have like guild versus guild matches and like guild leaderboards and guild tournaments and things of that nature. And then like it could even be that, let's say whenever you burn these items to create a guild in the first place, it actually creates a DAO. So a decentralized autonomous organization. And what could happen is that, you burn these items, and by virtue of joining the guild, you actually get minted an NFT as confirmation that you're a member of this guild. And it might be like number one, because like let's say you're the first person, Nico, like it'll be like number one fungi guild, and there's like artwork associated with it, right? And then, then I join that guild and I get number two, like fungi guild. And so then like what that guild could do, like they could have their own websites, they could have their own discords, where in order to participate or to get access to, let's say, different channels or different experiences, you have to prove that you're part of the guild. And you do this with the NFT, and it could grant you permissions. You could of course give that or sell that to someone else. And so this can create, like they could go on and create their whole worlds around like that experience. Or also someone could create another game around Skyweaver cards if they wanted, like Skybeaver or something. And like the rules could be a bit different. And then also, like, we kind of touched on it, but like the extensibility of that economy, where you mentioned like, yeah, other folks can build front ends to the Skyweaver market. So it's like it could become this like gigantic ecosystem where there's all sorts of independent things happen. Some of them perhaps more strongly connected with the original Skyweaver, and then others perhaps more loosely affiliated, but all of them like being part of this gigantic ecosystem where there are a ton of possibilities. And I'll be honest with you, like when I think kind of 3, 5, 6, 7 years in the future, I'm like, I don't know what it's going to look like. I think it's going to be incredible, but it's not like concrete in my head yet.
When I hear you describe that line of thoughts where, you have a guild and then you have to burn a bunch of cards and then that icon becomes your guild icon, I just want to, grab all of the people who are hating on blockchain and tell them like, how would you do that? Like, why do you keep saying blockchain doesn't solve any of the problems we have today? Listen to this. That was really great, really inspiring and exciting as well. And, it summarizes or illustrates my thoughts as well. So very good answer. You've told about, or you've explicitly said that Skyweaver is play to own instead of play to earn. What are your thoughts on the sustainability of play to earn moving forward?
Yeah, well, I mean, so there's play to earn as a name, and then there's play to earn as an actual like practice or mechanism in a game. And as far as my understanding of economics goes, like if everyone can earn super easily in the game and like mint a bunch of assets and such, like in my mind, I think it's going to become like a inflated market. And I'm not claiming to be like a mastermind economist. Like I'm sure that there's probably there are tons of ideas down the road that like people will come up with new stuff and we'll figure new things out about economics. But I think with one of the issues I see with play to earn is that if you're setting the expectation that the game is about earning, and then someone comes to the game and they're not earning, well, that's pretty disappointing. And maybe you just leave because your original intent is not filled. And then if everyone's earning, well, then you kind of run into the scenario that I've described, where I think you're going to end up with this kind of hyperinflationary market, and then you're actually not actually earning anything of value. And furthermore, like if your game's purely based on play to earn, and then a new product comes out where there's a higher yield, I mean, I think the natural tendency is to just go shift over and go after that higher yield. So what we've focused on is being play to own, in that if you win an item, if you purchase an item from the market from another player, that you truly own that item and it's yours to do whatever you want with. But first and foremost, it's about the game experience in and of itself. So like, even if you don't win anything, like the purpose is of just enjoying the game, the strategy in and of itself. And we believe that if you can build a really strong game first experience, kind of independently of how much someone might earn from the experience, then you can foster a long-term community that's in it for intrinsic reasons, perhaps more so than just like some financial gain.
Mm-hmm. It's a really good answer. And to just, agree with what you said about sustainability of play to earn and people playing a game to earn money. One of the basic rules of economics is there is no such thing as a free lunch. And so, having one ecosystem where everyone makes money, it just doesn't work. Maybe it does for a bit, but at least not sustainably. And now we're at the final question that I'd like to ask all my guests. It's not always exactly the same one, but I'm a big fan of bold predictions. So with this, Michael, could you share with us a bold prediction about blockchain games?
Yeah. I have a couple different tangents here that are going on in my head. And
Go ahead.
This one might not be that bold because I'm sure other people are saying it too, but I believe that in 10 years, like most games will be Web3 games. They'll be connected to the blockchain. I don't think every game needs to be, like if there isn't the ownership of items, like, it might not need to be. So there's no need to force a game onto blockchain just for the sake of doing so. But I do think most games will be, in that users will come to expect being able to own the items that they pay for, especially, and likely a lot of the items they win too. I think with respect to And then I can imagine all sorts of scenarios with respect to like those guilds and how those DAOs start to evolve around the ecosystem. And then this starts tying in with like Web3 and the metaverse more broadly, in which I think a lot of people are going to have a lot of their identity or kind of an alternative identity to their physical world identity, where they're in, Web3 and the metaverse, and they derive as much meaning from that experience as they do from the physical world. That tangent in and of itself makes me question if we're already in a blockchain-based virtual reality. But then this would be kind of another layer to that, a new dimension. And something that I think is super beautiful about Web3 and these games is the ability to have this global economic system where everyone can participate just by having this internet connection. And I think it offers a lot more, it enables a lot more equal opportunity and access with these permissionless systems. And I think that's super exciting. There is this idea I have, and like, I don't know when it's going to happen, but of this like unified consciousness in which everyone's participating in these decentralized experiences and economies, accessing it from anywhere in the world, feeling as though they're physically close with one another through virtual means. We could have this like awakening where everyone at the same time like just taps into love and recognizes this like unity and oneness. So maybe that's like my bold prediction, that all of these things could end up leading to this like beautiful awakening and awareness somewhere down the road.
That's really good. I really like that. Cool. Well, that's it for our time, Michael. I thank you so much for joining me on the pod. Listener, I hope you enjoyed. I hope you're as excited about Horizon, Skyweaver, and Sequence as I am. I'm going to play more of that game. I want to get some of these NFTs, maybe even get some gold NFTs. That's what I'm going to go for. It's my new after I finished binging Elden Ring. I'm gonna put myself to that. Elden, that's a good game. Anyway, Michael, thanks so much for coming on. Listener, thanks you for listening. This was the Metacast, and we look forward to speaking to you in the next episode. Cheers.